Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today we're going to be looking at Warrior Women Volume 2 from Headless Kings. This is the second deck from Headless Kings, a follow-up to 2020's Warrior Women Volume 1. And like the first deck, this deck pays homage to some of the most legendary female warriors throughout history and throughout the world. It follows some really unique stories and brings an entirely new cast of fighters from the original deck. Some of them ruled nations, others of them were leaders in the army, or just fierce fighters in their own right. But every single one of the stories is interesting, unique, and brings some fantastic art to go with it. Now, if you like what you see in this deck, make sure to check out their current Kickstarter campaign, Sisterhood of the Void, which is funding right now. That deck delves into the dark and mysterious world of witchcraft and witch hunts, and in it, artist Eshin Jufati brings his incredible art style to showcase some of the more famous witches, or at least suspected witches, in history. It's a great dark theme, and one that if you like what you see in the Warrior Women decks, you're sure to enjoy. So check out the link in the description or look up Sisterhood of the Void on Kickstarter. But first, let's check out their second deck, Warrior Women Volume 2. And we'll start out by looking at the tuck case. The tuck cases were printed by Clove Street Press. They do some amazing work with their detailed foiling, and this deck no exception. It's done on a black matte cardstock, and it comes with 3 different colors of foiling. We have the gold, the silver, and this bright, shiny electric kind of teal or blue here. Really great mixture of colors and some really ornate detailing on this one. The Warrior Women banners proclaim the name of the deck, and then you have all sorts of details. It's kind of a mixture of different cultures, which for the deck is kind of fitting. You'll see things like Celtic inspirations, or even fleur-de-lis that you'll get from like French culture, the European style swords crossed in the center, just all sorts of little details in this beautifully designed tuck case. You see on the sides 2021 when the deck was initially launched, and then Volume 2 on the other. Now, it is printed on what's traditionally the back of the deck. You can see that from the thumb cut out here. But as you turn around to the sides, you get Warrior Women by Headless Kings, made in the United States of America on the other side. And then on the back, a little preview of some of the detailing we'll see in the back design of the cards, but another fantastic multi-foiled design on here. Really, really nicely done. The bottom here has some very small ad copy, mentions Headless Kings, as well as these are printed in the United States. The decks themselves are printed by USPCC, and then the Headless Kings logo there. And then the top just says, I believe it says Headless Kings playing cards, or Headless Kings cards. Then the tuck seal here, done in a shiny gold foil. You got the black and the silver on there as well. You have the little emblem in the center, and then they're numbered out of the 1500 deck run. You open up the inner flap, more sort of filigree and ornate detailing there in the multiple colors of foil, as well as the simple little designs here on the inner flaps, and some nice interior printing as well. You get this repeated gold pattern. Each one of the panels has one of the pip suits inside. So it gives you just a nice extra luxurious feel to the interior of the tuck. So really nicely done on the tuck, very much in keeping with the style of the Volume 1 deck, but gives it some flair to kind of give it a new feel, so it's not just a recoloring of the original deck. So that's the tuck box, but let's take a look at the cards, and we'll start with the back design. And here it is. So a lot of those same detailings that we saw on the tuck box, but this time done with some metallic inks. Now I will say, not the shiniest metallic inks in the world, but the patterning on this one is really ornate and detailed, bringing in some of those same elements that we saw on the tuck box. Lots of details and just filigree feeling every square centimeter of this thing. You'll see the multiple colors of the black background, and then there's some gold in there, silver, as well as the little blue accents, and just a great flow to the card. The crossing swords in the middle kind of give you a nice focal point. And then you have the little bubbles here around the sides of the MMXXI, the Roman numerals for 2020 on each side, and then the pip suits in the top and the bottom. Everything put together to form a completely two-way back design. And that nice thin white poker border around the edges. So there's your back design, nicely done. Although I wish they'd use maybe brighter metallics on here. I could have gone with like a slightly lighter, brighter shade of gold, would have been nice. But still a nice look to that one. Now the first 2 Jokers come in the form of a really beautifully illustrated and truly impressive diptych. This one right here is actually an homage back to the original Warrior Women Volume 1 deck, and it features the 12 courts that we saw in that one. Now go check out my review of Volume 1 if you want to know more about this cast of characters, but all of these are the ones that are featured in that deck. And so nice to give a nod back to the original, and they're all standing in this really just beautiful scene, the rays of light across the back, and that pencil sketch style, just really impressively done. You can get just a flavor of how talented of an artist he is with this one. Just really nicely done. All right, so there's your diptych jokers, and then you get two more classically framed jokers, each one of them with an armor set up here. So one of them done more kind of a Roman style here, with the headdress on the helmet there, and then Joker in the corners, and then the red Joker has more of a pirate flair to it with the pistols and that traditional pirate's cap atop the skull, and then you can see the cutlass there in the back. So really cool pair of jokers. Love the art style on these, and that artwork just really impeccably done. So there's your two jokers. The four aces all feature really large ornate pips. No one of them is the power ace, but all of them are impressive. And again, kind of keeping that sketch style. You get just slight imperfections in them that I think just give them that much extra life. But again, lots of little details and just ornamental pieces in the oversized pips on each one of these. So the blacks and the grays that you get on the spades, and then the diamonds are more reds and pinks. Really like the kind of oblong shape of the diamond pip on this one. Club, this is probably my favorite of the pips. Definitely has a little bit of a Celtic vibe to it for me. And then finally the hearts, and this one feels a little bit more French, has those sort of classic flowery filigree around the sides and even the little floral bits at the top. Really nicely done. You get a custom font and a really tiny pip there in the corner for the pip and index, but finishing out the four aces. And then we get to the number cards, and all the number cards are custom as well. They feature larger than usual custom pips here in the middle. So you'll see the spade pips here with the little fleur-de-lis in the middle. Pretty classic layout as we go through most of these. So nothing too crazy or out of the ordinary in terms of the layout of the pips, but that custom style, and again, that sketched style really kind of gives it a little bit of extra flavor. So there's your diamonds, have a little bit more flair to them as well. And then done in that classic red color. There's the club. This one, while I like the club ace, the club pips here are probably my least favorite. I think they could have gone with, maybe a little bit more ornamentation, but still very nice. And then finally into the hearts. So there's your number cards, and we finally get to the courts. Now, the courts of Warrior Women truly are the highlight of the deck. Each one of them has that fantastically detailed pencil-drawn style, and it depicts one of those powerful female warriors throughout history. And each one of them gives you a little bit of help in the form of their name right here, just under the pip and index. So helps you out with identifying who's who in this one. But I really love the exploration that he goes into, often going with some of the lesser known heroines. And you all know that I love to talk about the character inspirations, so let's jump into it, starting out here with the Jack of Spades. And this is Lozin. Now, Lozin was a warrior of the Apache Native American tribe, and she was said not only to be a really fierce warrior, but also a bit of a mystic. She had powers and was able to use those powers to detect the movements of her enemies. The illustrations of these women through all of the cards really capture their strength well. You can see that look of determination on her face, the rifle in her hands, and that background here done in that little hits of like the bluish color or that bluish green color. Give you a little character appropriate scene in the back. So this one has like the trees and the bushes, but each one of those backgrounds is going to be unique to the characters. So really nicely drawn, that two-way court style, the nice little border around the edge, just a beautifully drawn court card. But that is not the last. Well, the Queen of Spades goes to Brazil and depicts Maria Quiteria. She was a Brazilian hero with a story. It's actually a little bit similar to Milan's story from China. So during the Brazilian War for Independence, she actually enlisted in the army as a man, completely against her father's wishes, and kind of hid her gender from the rest of the army. Now, she was eventually found out, but at that time she had established herself with her skill, and it was such that she was allowed to continue to fight and actually rose through the ranks of the Brazilian army. And today, she's a bit of a folk hero. So very cool story to her there. All right, so next up, finally, as the last of the spades and the king of the spades, this is Rachel Wall. She was actually believed by many to be the first American-born female pirate. Now, this one, I really love the pose on this one, that slight lean back, the pistol raised up in the air. I think this is a great pose to this card. And you can see the waters of the ocean there behind her. All right, so now we move on to the diamonds, and all the diamonds come from Asia in some area. And we start with the only card that actually features a duo. These are the Trung Sisters. They're regarded as national heroes in Vietnam and were military leaders who actually fought against Chinese in the 1st century. And Trung Troc, I'm not sure which one she is, but she actually served as the first female Vietnamese monarch. And so today, the two sisters who fought together are legends in Vietnamese culture. So love the depiction here, the pair of them back to back with their swords raised in the air. Next, we go to the Queen of Diamonds. This is Suryutai. She was a royal consort in Thailand, whose most famous moment actually came when she sacrificed her own life in defense of her husband and king during a single combat. She was actually on elephant back and fought somebody else on elephant back in an effort to defend her own husband, and actually gave her own life. Again, really cool. I love the spear in her hands here. It's a great look to that one. And the tropical trees there in the background. And then finally for the diamonds is the king. This is Ching Shi. She was actually known as one of the most successful pirates, male or female, anywhere. She was very, very successful. At her peak in the early 1800s, she personally commanded over 1,400 fellow pirates. And that kind of far off look in her eyes, you can almost imagine her looking out over the ocean there. All right, now we go on to the clubs, and we start with Amina. Now, she was a queen of the city-state of Zazzau in what is now northwest Nigeria. Now, there's not actually a lot known about her because the stories are kind of a mixture of like folklore and historical accounts. So there's actually some that disagree that she even existed. But if you go through the folklore of that area, she's extremely well known as a powerful leader in that time, and some of the tribes in that area. Love the kind of darker look that she has. She has a very kind of menacing look on her face. Next, we go to the Queen of Clubs. This is Mavia, who's an Arab warrior queen who actually led troops against the Roman rulers in the 4th century. And she ruled over a group of nomadic Arab people in southern Syria. Now, this is, of course, another beautiful illustration. I particularly love the headdress there, kind of a Cleopatra vibe to that one. But very cool Arab leader there. Staying with the Arab theme, this is Al-Hurra, who is another pirate. She was a pirate and a queen who is considered one of the most significant female figures of the Islamic modern age. She ruled for an impressive 30 years in total before she was actually overthrown by her own son-in-law. The headdress there is really distinctive on that one. Hands on the hip, just a very proud and menacing figure she strikes there. And finally, we move on to the hearts. Now, a Greek naval commander named Laskarina Bobalina appears as the Jack of Hearts. She fought during the Greek War for Independence and is actually considered to be the first woman ever to attain the rank of admiral, one of the highest amongst the Navy. Love the, I think it's called a blunderbuss over her shoulder there with that wide flared out end, but another really nice card. Next up is probably my favorite card of all. This is Gorgo, the Queen of Hearts. She was actually the Spartan wife to the legendary King Leonidas. Leonidas was the one who led that famed band of 300 Spartans to fight against the entire Persian army. And stories say that she was actually a wise leader in her own right, even if it's her husband who kind of became the more famous one in history. But like I said, this is my favorite card in the deck. I love just the pose there, turned to the side, that menacing dagger off to the side, and that bright red background. Everything just really works on this card. So this is probably my favorite card in the deck. And then finally, we go back to the seas for the final court. This is Mary Read, who is one of the most famous female pirates of all time. So she sailed the seas during the early 1700s, sometimes as part of the army, many times as a pirate as well. And she was actually one of the few women in history who was convicted for her crimes, ultimately dying in prison in 1721. And again, that classic pirate's pistol raised up in the air. And that is it. That is the Courts of Warrior Women Volume 2. Just a really beautifully illustrated set. Just the quality of the illustrations and the depth of the stories that were explored for this one. Can't say enough about this one. I think it's a fantastic deck. As far as handling, these are done by USPCC, a nice crush stock, really thin feel to them, and they handle very smoothly. I really just come to expect nothing less of USPCC. Their handling is never a complaint on these. So really nicely done in terms of handling. You know, if you wanted to use these for gameplay, for cardistry even, these would hold up just fine in that front. But that said, I think it's more an art deck than anything else, and one that, you know, just kind of going into the stories of the core cards and things like that, I think is really where it's going to find its home. But anyway, that is the look at Warrior Women Volume 2 from Headless Kings. Now, like I said up top, make sure to check out their current campaign if you like the style of these decks, because the artwork is kind of giving new life in the story of witches and witchcraft with Sisterhood of the Void. So if you like this one, go check out that campaign. I'm a backer for that one and really excited and hopeful to see that one fund and get a third deck from Headless Kings. I'll put a link down in the description for that one if you want to check it out. But anyway, that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews, more unboxings. Let me know what else you want to see, and I'll see you for the next one.